After losing to the Denver Nuggets in Game 7 of the Western Conference semifinals, the Los Angeles Clippers became the running joke of NBA fans, media members, and players alike. Not only were they the championship favorites, but they blew a 3-1 series lead after having multiple chances to close out the series and several double-digit scoring leads in every elimination game. How anyone thought a bunch of players that came together at the beginning of the season were immediately championship-worthy goes beyond logical reasoning, but nobody can deny that the Clippers were one of the most talented and deep teams in the whole league. And as LeBron showed us in 2011, having the most talented roster does not equal a championship. Today, we'll take a look at the real reason the Los Angeles Clippers collapsed in the second round of the playoffs. But before we do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. The Western Conference semifinals between the Clippers and the Nuggets was much more than a matchup between two really good teams. In fact, it was an absolute clash of styles and approaches to building a team that can contend for an NBA title. The Nuggets believe the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, as they rely mainly on ball movement and superb team basketball. The Clippers, on the other hand, were used to manhandling most every opponent with their sheer superiority in talent and had their two stars impose their will in dominant fashion, with the help of a good supporting cast. The Nuggets were built from the ground up, drafting their top two stars and most of their bench themselves, and developing them into better players. Alternatively, the Clippers signed or traded for pretty much every meaningful player in their team, believing that once you have talent, chemistry, and fit issues could be sorted out later. There is no right or wrong way to do it, as both approaches have yielded championship quality results. The best comparison to the Nuggets way is the 2015 Golden State Warriors, who managed to develop and elevate their core to championship status and beat almost every preseason prediction. And perhaps the early 2010s Miami Heat best resemble the Clippers way, as they acquired all sorts of talents to help Dwayne Wade and won 2 titles in the process. When the Clippers first put together this team in the 2019 offseason, it felt like two businessmen throwing their money at a hot new business project only because it promised to yield a great return on their investment. There didn't appear to be any connection that could have brought Kawhi Leonard and Paul George together to the Clippers, other than the fact that they are both from the LA area and were a good fit on paper. Before Game 7, Nikola Jokic approached Nuggets head coach Mike Malone, who was celebrating his birthday on that same day, and told him, "Coach, I'm going to get you a great present. I'm either going to get you home or get you to the Western Conference Finals." Malone laughed it off, knowing the Nuggets were already winners, simply by the fact they pushed the title favorites to 7 games, and forced them to that last game after falling victim to a 3-1 deficit. If they lost, they could still call themselves overachievers, but if they won, they would perhaps complete one of the biggest upsets in NBA playoffs history. And while the pressure was clearly all on the Clippers, Paul George dismissed that notion. "We don't have pressure. I think the whole pressure is on them," the cynical George said before Game 7. "We're still in the driver's seat. It's not panic mode." The Nuggets went out there and did their thing, while the Clippers crumbled thanks to the immense pressure that they previously put on themselves. The game wasn't even close, as the Nuggets finished the third quarter with a solid lead, and LA scored their first basket of the last period 7 minutes into the fourth quarter. Denver won by 15, and Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic were both ecstatic in the post-game interview. "I had a talk before the game," Jokic said, "and I told them, whatever we do, I'm going to remember this team, because this is a very special crew. Nobody wants us here. Nobody thought that we could do something. Next is the Lakers, another tough opponent for us, but we're just going to have to go out there and be out there having fun." Jokic was talking about him and his Nugget teammates, but without really knowing it, he had just revealed the key to the Clippers' demise in the second round. The Clippers came together to play basketball, but there never seemed to be any chemistry, and at times looked like they were having no fun playing the game of basketball. They were just a bunch of good players that joined and hoped their talent would be enough to put them over. But NBA history has shown us that talent alone never wins games or series. And this all starts with their robotic leader, Kawhi Leonard. When your best player and so-called leader rarely shows any signs of emotion, passion, or joy while playing the game, it's hard to be motivated. After last year's Game 7 victory over the Philadelphia 76ers, then Raptor Kawhi Leonard looked the most excited anybody has ever seen him. But it took a dramatic buzzer beater on a Game 7 to bring out that glimpse of emotion. What could Kawhi's pre-game speech have sounded like before their Game 7 against the Nuggets? During the second half of that game, Leonard and Paul George scored a total of 5 points, and shot 2 for 18 from the field. How is the rest of the team supposed to be motivated, inspired, or have any desire to do better when their 2 star players weren't even looking to get involved or do something to turn their bad fortune around? There are things players and teams can work on. If they're bad three-point shooters, the coach can set up drills and give them double shooting workouts every day for the summer. If they have bad conditioning, a coach can give them an hour plus of cardio every day during the offseason. But what can a team do when it's lacking chemistry, camaraderie, and fun? The Clippers need to set up a team vacation to Cancun or something similar, because until they can enjoy this time they're having with one another, it's likely they will continue getting mediocre results. Yes, Steve Ballmer could break his bank and re-sign Montrezl Harrell, Pat Patterson, and Marcus Morris, or try and trade for another star, but that won't solve the real problem. A lot of the issues we ran into, talent bailed us out. Chemistry didn't, said Clippers guard Lou Williams after their Game 7 defeat, and quite frankly, he couldn't have put it any better. While there are conflicting reports between the Clippers blowing this core up and trying to run it back all over again, one thing is for sure. If they had high expectations and pressure to deliver a championship this year, that pressure won't get any lighter coming into next season. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George can both opt out of their contracts in the 2021 offseason and leave for greener pastures. So if the Clippers can't figure out their chemistry issues and start winning, it's likely at least one of them is leaving for nothing in free agency. The bad news for them doesn't end there, as the Clippers don't have control of their first-round pick until 2027. They traded a total of 7 of them for Paul George, when you include the pick swaps as well as a future star in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Up until the arrival of Blake Griffin, the Clippers had been one of the most miserable franchises in the league for a very long time, and they could very well return to obscurity if they don't make things work next season. We know Kawhi doesn't care about anything else other than his own well-being, and he could easily destroy the Clippers by leaving for nothing if he doesn't see a bright future. Paul George, who demanded a trade from Indiana, isn't much different. Tick-tock, the pressure is on for the Clippers. Do you think a lack of chemistry is the real reason the Clippers lost in the second round? Will they make aggressive offseason moves in hopes of improving their squad? Tell us what you think in the comments down below, and once again, make sure to leave us a like on this video and hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching another Swish Central video, and join us next time for more NBA basketball content.